Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's edition of the Our America channel. My name is Thornton Prayer. I'm a citizen, a patriot, and I care very deeply about the United States of America and the direction we're headed in. Today, I'd like to do the first of a two-part series about nationalism. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about nationalism here in the United States and, frankly, in other parts of the world as well. And I've been thinking about this for a while. There's this huge debate going on between the nationalists and the globalists, between white nationalists and black nationalists, and all this kind of stuff that's going on. But I want to look at it from a different angle. I like to study history, and I'm fairly familiar with some of the basics of European history and American history. And if you look back at European history, there's a certain time frame, let's say from the 14th, 15th centuries until the 17th, 18th century, where religion just tore Europe apart. Millions of people, tens of millions of people died as a result. Well, that kind of petered out. But interestingly enough, starting in the late 18th century, you probably point to the French Revolution, into the 19th century and on into the 20th century was the rise of nationalism. And one of the things I would suggest to you is that nationalism turned into a form of civic religion. And just like religion, in the typical sense of the word, led people to tear each other apart, this civic religion of nationalism did the same thing in Europe. One of the things I read a long time ago, a book about religion, they said that what religion tends to do, it tends to moralize and then to polarize. It basically turns us into two mutually exclusive buckets of good versus evil, bad versus evil, right versus wrong. And so, since most of us think we are on the side of good, automatically the people who are different from us are bad and evil. And that's why religion at its worst, I want to emphasize that, can be a dangerous thing, and that's what tore Europe apart so terribly. That's why the founding fathers of the United States made the separation of state a core plank of the Constitution, because as students of history themselves, they recognize the risk of allowing religion becoming an aspect under state control. But I'm saying that nationalism, as a form of civic religion, can have the same tendency. Nationalism, let's say the love of one's own, as I've heard some people describe it, is not a bad thing. But when it becomes framed in a sense of, well, my nation, my people are the good people, the people who must survive, then very bad and dangerous things can happen. If you look at European history from, let's say, late 18th century onto the 20th century, Europe tore itself apart, culminating, of course, in World War II. And we saw, in the particular form of German nationalism, the ramifications of that. How Germany, the German nation, ended up destroying itself because of this virulent form of moralizing and polarizing, believing that it was I can't think of the specific term, but the apex of human existence, and all other peoples needed to be destroyed or subjugated. I see some element of that here in the United States. There are people who want to use nationalism not as a love of the United States, but more as a tool to club and control and dominate other people who they see outside of the American nation. It's the same thing that has the tendency to tear the United States apart. It's what tore the United States apart during the Civil War, for that matter, and it still is an ongoing thread that has made our country more unstable than it needed to be. So one of the things I want to ask us to start looking at is, are we looking at our nationalism for the United States from the standpoint of love of the United States as a country for all of our citizens, regardless of their background, regardless of their religion, regardless of their ethnicity or national origin, or are we going to use it as a way to beat ourselves up and beat ourselves into oblivion and destroy our country? If you have any thoughts or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Again, I'd like to thank you for watching today's edition of the Our America channel. Thank you for watching.